Hello and welcome to the Game Club, the part of our YouTube channel where we play an indie game for a week and then we come back here and share our thoughts. This week we played the Magic Circle, which is a game that has you take on the role of a Q&A playtester for a video game. And as you walk around inside this video game, you find out more stuff about the people who created the game and maybe find out some things about yourself. I don't know. I haven't played it. I'm here to ask the questions. I'm here to be educated, essentially. But I have with me here Ryan Dildine and Samuel Yates. Hi.
Hello.
Hey, what's up?
So, the Magic Circle. Who wants to give me a brief synopsis of what this game is all about?
Oh, that's tough, man. That's a big ask. There's a lot going on in the Magic Circle.
All right. So the very basic things of things, essentially. Give me that.
Yeah, the very basic things of things is that the person you're playing as, like your player character, is somehow in the middle of an unfinished video game. And the developers are also there. They sort of float around in these like hovering eyes, and everything within the world is manipulatable, like at the base kind of code level of it.
Right.
But not to the point where you have to program anything. It's just like everything has a list and you can choose what variables you want to be in it. So all these creatures, you can change what powers they have, and it's all reflected visually.
Mm-hmm.
And as you're exploring this world and all that stuff, you're coming to learn about the creator of the game, this guy called Ish. And he's kind of the ultimate big guy in control, I guess.
Micromanager, like...
Yeah, exactly. And so you listen to them interact, and the people at this company interact with each other, and you wander around this unfinished game. You find, like, QA notes and all this weird stuff, and you have a friend who I think wants to take the game down from the inside. I don't think he's an actual person. He's like an AI construct called Pro.
Mm-hmm.
And so by working with him, you kind of manipulate this whole system to your ends, which I don't know exactly. I finished it, but I don't know exactly why or what those were.
Mm-hmm.
But it all sort of wraps up together, and you learn about these people. It's pretty cool. I mean, I guess that kind of gets you close in a way.
Right. So it is, in many ways, a sort of meta-analysis on games and game development.
Yeah, that makes sense.
All right. About the editing, I guess, of creatures and enemies in the game, how deep does that go? Do you only influence the powers that they have, or do you also get to influence their reactions to you, the player, or their reactions to the environment they're in?
Yeah. Well, you get when you encounter something, you can trap it with, what is it called? Is it life?
I think it's life.
Yeah, it's life, and you find that in cracks in the game world, and you can absorb that and then use that to trap creatures within the game or whatever it is within the game. And then once you have it trapped, you can go in and like edit its code, and you can edit everything from, like, the first thing you edit is what are they called? It's that dog thing.
Howlers.
Howlers, yeah. So you go into the Howler's code, and then you can change like who the Howler's enemy is, who his allies are, what things he will attack and what things he won't attack, and what's some other stuff, like if you can pick it up, if you can throw it, like all these different things you can adjust to make that character, that object, more manipulatable in game.
Right.
Yeah, you collect them all like traits. So if I jumped into this Howler, it would say, my name is Howler, and then you can change its name to whatever. I attack by melee. I move by ground. My allies are blah, blah, blah. My enemies are blah, 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 stuff like that. But you can just strip all that stuff out, and then you sort of collect these traits into a pool. So if I strip this Howler and I jump back out, it'll just be laying there on the ground because I took everything from it. But now I can walk over to this rock, and it'll say, my name is Rock. I attack by nothing. I can click on that nothing, and then since I took the melee from the Howler, I can put the melee on the rock. And then when I jump back out, the rock's got these big teeth.
But are the collected traits one use, or is it once you get one, you can use it for everything?
They're one use.
All
so
right.
if you want to use, they kind of like go into a pool. So you'll have like 5 or 6 copies of melee, but if you use them all, then that's it.
Right. So it sounds like this can turn into, well, a puzzle, essentially. Does the game have a lot in the way of puzzles?
Maybe a little bit. I know they try to. Most of the puzzles do revolve around basically just trying to find the traits for the monsters.
Right.
So if I need to get past this giant electric door, there's a trait called door opener or something like that. And I can either leave it on the little robot it's on, or I can take that trait called door opener and put it in basically anything I want, and then that thing can now do that.
Right.
And that's most of the puzzle stuff is just moving traits from one point to another, or just trying to figure out how to get different places.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's most of where the puzzle stuff comes from. Yeah, it's all tied back into that system.
All right. Visually speaking, what are the game? What's the graphics like? And the art style and stuff.
It's really interesting because most of the world is black and white, except for certain things. And it's I guess, is it cell shaded?
Yeah, I guess you could say that. I was thinking like an ink, kind of a pen and ink drawn sort of monochromatic type of jam. But anything that you've empowered with life becomes colored.
Yeah, and your steps underneath are colored. Like wherever you go, since you carry that, you kind of light up the ground around you. But then everything else is black and white. But in terms of, I mean, the overall art style, I thought it was awesome because it kind of makes you're in this demo of this game that's not finished, and the art style is for the most part black and white, and like Sam said, kind of this ink drawn thing, and it makes it feel unfinished. It makes it feel like it's a storyboard rather than a finished part of a game.
Right.
And the things you then bring to life lose that, and then now they look like this thing that has had life brought into it. And it really differentiates between the two, and it kind of helps you separate what, like, your character from the world, and what you're trying to do. But yeah, it's just a beautiful art style, and I really like how do they do it? It's I keep forgetting. It's like there's these ghost figures. Is that what they are?
I guess. But you have to tell me a little bit more.
Well, like when you get life in your little life bar, and then you walk up to something, and it's like a ghost, and then you give it life, and then that thing now gets flooded with color. It's ghosts, right?
Yep. That sounds right.
So that part's really cool. Like, I like you're just walking through this unfinished, just this unfinished feeling place, and then you see these ghostly like figures kind of shape shifting, and you walk up and you give them life, and now there's this burst of color in this black and white landscape, and it's really cool. Like, it just provides a lot of contrast. I really like it.
Yeah, and they also do that sort of Wizard of Oz thing, because there was a game before this game that never got released and never got finished, and it was sci-fi themed, and then now this game that you're in is medieval theme, and somehow within the code that you're in, these two worlds clash. And the sci-fi world is color, and the medieval world is black and white. So as you're moving through this mishmash and kind of melding of games, you move from two regions of color when you're in sci-fi corridors and sci-fi spaces, and then out into black and white when you're in the medieval spaces, and they kind of poke through each other in some interesting places and ways.
Right.
And so that's cool.
Okay. I want to jump back to the story, because it seems like it's a very character-driven game. What was it, the floating eyes that they represent the developers and stuff?
Mm-hmm.
So what's the writing like?
Seems good to me.
Yeah, good dialogue. Is it funny in places?
There's a good line by the main guy, Ish, and he's talking about the difference between video games and other like stuff. Like, he's talking to you as the player about why you play video games and what you like or whatever. And what he says is, the language of the soul can't be written, it has to be lived. Like, speaking to like how the interactive nature of video games kind of gives a deeper meaning or a deeper message.
Right.
So I thought that was well written. And so if you take that tone and kind of extract it out in general, some of the lines might seem cheesy or ham-fisted, but for the characters that they're given to, I think they fit really well.
All right, then. I'm running really low on questions here, so let's just move on to closing statements. Would you recommend this game to people who have never played it before?
I would, definitely. This game, it gave me a similar feeling to the Stanley Parable, where it makes you very aware that you're playing a game, but at the same time you want to keep playing that game to see where it takes you. And it has a way of revealing things to you that you don't realize. Very similar to the Stanley Parable. It has a really cool way of revealing things to you about games and the way you interact with the games that you might not have thought about before. And the ways that developers interact with their games as well as the audience. Right. And like Ish has a lot of issues because the things he wants in the game aren't necessarily what the players find the most appealing or the most entertaining, but he also has this artistic vision for the game. So he kind of gets this conflicted area, and then May's like often she disagrees with what Ish does a lot. And then what's the intern's name?
Coda.
Coda, yeah. And
Yeah.
so Coda, at least at the beginning, is like enamored with Ish and does like anything he needs. So it presents like this cool dynamic between these three developers who are kind of clashing, and then you, the player, who's in this live demo manipulating things.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's a game that people who are at all interested in anything to do with the development cycle, they should play it, just because it kind of gives you a cool little insight onto how the developers think.
Right. Okay, Sam, you've got any closing statements?
I'd second that 100%. I thought this game was great. It was exactly the right length, and the last part of it is absolutely a culmination, an incredibly awesome thing that I don't even want to spoil, but the last sequence in that game is incredible. But before you get to that, roaming around and exploring this space, it does a great job of using its overall themes of being like in a currently being developed space. And that guy Pro even says like, hey, look, if you found a solution to something that might not be quite so perfect and you don't think it's what the developers want, I say fuck them. And I was like, yes, because there's a point where that game cracks open and you can combine these traits in so many ways to do all these interesting things that you're going way beyond the boundaries, and you're like, whoa, man, this is absolutely nuts. Like, I would expect there to be an invisible wall here, and there's not. Like, I can do all this stuff. I can go all these places. And so that feeling right there, like when it kind of breaks open and you kind of have this sense of power over the game world, is very, very cool. I mean, only second place to that final sequence, because that's just astounding. So yeah, I would easily recommend it. It's a short game, it's not very long, and it's absolutely worth your time.
All right then. That's the Magic Circle for you. It is out on Microsoft Windows, on OS X, Linux, and PlayStation 4. I wouldn't be able to tell you how much it costs because, prices fluctuate and all that, but you can give it a go if you so desire. If you want to know what we're going to play next, you can tune into the podcast, which should be on the channel, on the YouTube channel or on SoundCloud as we speak, and we'll see you next time.